Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I have the pleasure of welcoming Liam Ryan, owner of Assets for Life. And Liam, today it's awesome to have you, and I'm looking forward to getting into some sort of deep topic all about property, about finance, and I suppose really these are the hot topics that everyone wants to know about, and really looking sort of towards the year of 2022 and the opportunity that might be on the horizon. So Liam, thanks for joining us. And if we could, a sort of that 30,000 view of what you do.
Great, brilliant. Well, thanks for having me on the show. Very excited. So just want to say hi to everyone tuning in. My name's Liam. I'm one of the co-founders of Assets for Life, and I operate the UK's premier business, property and wealth training company. I'm also very active in property. So I work with private funders, and I've been able to build a multi-million-pound property portfolio using other people's money. And I love business, I love entrepreneurship, I love property, and love building a community where we can all collaborate, work together, so we can move forward and live the life that we want to live.
Awesome. A brilliant intro. And I think for anyone that is watching that doesn't follow Liam already, go check him out. Liam, what I've seen, and if anyone hasn't, go jump on Liam's YouTube channel, is that you are all about being a sort of a true entrepreneur, seizing opportunity and being sort of very diversified in business as well, which is great. And hopefully that's going to relate to the audience. But today we're obviously going to cover off property. What I'll do is we'll tap into a little bit of the mindset towards the end of this recording. But to sort of kick things off then, we are going to start with property. There's been a lot of ups and downs this year with new sort of things being brought in, from furlough, to all of these, I suppose, tax wrappers that have happened and stamp duty and everything like that. But if we look forward now, Liam, in 2022, what is the opportunity for new property investors? Because I don't want to sort of focus too much on experience. I want to sort of focus on the people that might be going, right, 2022, I'm getting into property. Where's the opportunity?
Great, good. That's a really good question. And even through this pandemic, we've still been able to do some of our best property deals. So something which is really important for people coming into the marketplace, it doesn't matter if we're in a pandemic, what's going on in terms of recession, there's always going to be something happening in the world where people will see it as a negative. And you're always going to get those people that say, oh, stay away from property. There's going to be a property crash. There's new taxations. There's new ways of buying property. There's always going to be those people that are very negative. But the fact remains, property has always stood the test of time. And property is also very, very forgiving. And what's great about people coming into property is that there's lots of opportunity right now. I truly believe 2022 is going to be a great year, because when we're in a recession, when we're in a pandemic, what a lot of people do, they sit on the fence and they do nothing. So we observe the masses, but we do the opposite. So now is a great time to be very active, looking to start your property business, work on your branding, what's going to be your unique selling points within your property sector. And there's multiple streams of property income that can be made in 2022. Single lets are still a great way to get into the property market, buy, refurbish, refinance, go and find those dirty, horrible, smelly, disgusting houses where you can add lots of value, refinance out, get a nice tenant in there, and you can be netting your £200, £300, £400 every single month without doing a great deal of work. You can also get involved with the rent-to-rent strategy. Rent-to-rent serviced accommodation right now is absolutely booming. The staycation market. Not many people are going on holidays at the moment, so people are looking for home away from home. Contractors up and down the country right now. A lot of the hotels, unfortunately, are on their knees, and people are looking for those home comforts. So something like serviced accommodation, I believe, is going to be massive in 2022. And then, of course, you've got strategies like deal packaging, where you can just be the middleman. You can just find deals, find investors, package them up, and sell those deals for 3,000, 5,000, sometimes even more. You don't need deposits. You haven't got to go through the legal process. You can get involved even if you've got bad credit or CCJs. So that's a really good way to build up cash flow also. And then, of course, you've got developments. You know, we have a shortage of houses here in the UK. We're not building enough properties. The demand is through the roof. The population is going up and up and up and up. So there's a really good opportunity as well for new developers to come in, where you could be finding great plots of land with or without planning. You can be approaching homeowners with large gardens and doing JVs and go and build 4 houses or 6 houses or a small block of flats. So the market next year, I believe, is going to create a lot of opportunity. Now, this is important for new people coming into the market, and I cannot stress this enough. Where there are so many property strategies, deal packaging, single lets, rent to rent, HMOs, lease options, delayed contracts, commercial conversions, what a lot of people do is they try and do it all at once. Mm-hmm. Or they start with, say, deal packaging, and then they have a few challenges, a few bumps in the road. And then the next minute they want to do HMOs, and then they have a few challenges and a few bumps. And what they do is they chase the shiny penny. Yeah. So my recommendation, Aaron, for anyone tuning in is focus. Follow one course until successful. Think about this. What is the most important thing to me and my family right now? Am I looking for a high income replacement strategy? Do you want to own assets? Are you looking more for long-term wealth creation? And then really get focused in on 1 or 2 strategies, get that cooking on gas, get your first 1, 2, 3 deals over the line, build a team, systemize, and then over time, you can build a portfolio of multiple strategies. And because I do believe in diversification, I don't think you should have all your eggs in one basket. So that's where we're at with it.
Well, that was a great sort of description. And I think you hit the nail on the head. And I know you did, is where, for anyone listening, you know, Liam, you just hit the nail on the head in the sense of not to flitter, basically, right? Is not to go from, I'm gonna try that, or it didn't work out, because you end up getting in that whirlwind of you actually end up never really doing anything because you're not sticking to it until it's finished. Like you said, focus, you know, finish one course until successful. And that is, I think that's really key, because I know many people that do flitter from one thing to the other, and a year later, they're in the same position that they were a year ago. So that's really important. Now, I suppose really, I do agree, there's a lot of opportunity for people who aren't willing to sort of sit on their hands and they get up and actually do it. And I think education behind that is a big part of it. You know, you don't know what you don't know. So education is at the forefront. Now, something I'm really sort of hot on, because I deal with it sort of on a day-to-day basis, I know you're big in this area as well, is a lot of people will go, I've got the drive, I've got the motivation, I'm fine with sticking with one strategy. My biggest problem is, and it always has been, I just don't have the money. I have a small deposit, or I have a little bit, or I rent my home. I don't have the asset to leverage against. So if you were to put yourself in an average family person's position, they're working full time, what's the most realistic suggestion that you could make to someone who's perhaps got a small deposit and wants to get on the ladder?
Okay, great, good. So I'm glad we're talking about money, or the lack of money. Yeah. So let me just take your audience back to 2015. I had a renewable energy company here in Chelmsford, 3,500 square foot office, providing the UK's best renewable energy products. I'd invested hundreds of thousands of pounds into that company, and literally overnight, the government pulled the tariff for many renewable energy products, or they reduced the tariff. What that meant was that within 24 hours, my business was no longer scalable, wasn't sustainable. And I was forced with the realization that I was going to have to run that business down. And over 3 days, my company went from 115 staff down to sub 10. I couldn't just shut the company overnight. We had great clients. We had this small window of opportunity to get as many installations in as possible. I became a salesman for my own company, felt extremely low, very sorry for myself. The official liquidation figure was minus £392,000. So I found myself in a position where I'd run out of money. I actually met who is now my amazing business partner, Jay Munoz. He was one of my solar customers, and then we created Assets for Life. So going back into property again, over 6 years ago, I wasn't in a position where I had even a deposit to my disposal for anything. I was literally in survival mode. However, I got mentored, I got retrained, I got around other great people, re-energized myself. And the only way that I was going to make this work was by OPM, other people's money. So how did I do that? Well, initially, I thought there's no way anyone's going to give me cash. And I just started to create my brand, put myself out there, speak to everyone I knew. I started to have coffees with people. And after a few weeks, people started to know what I was doing. And then I got my first investor over the line, Dave from Basildon. He was introduced to me by a good friend of mine called Will. And he became my first investor. And he lent me £5,000 for 1 year on a 10% fixed rate return. And I used that money to go towards what was then my first property deal, being reborn, I suppose, as a property investor. But I tell you what that £5,000 did. It wasn't a lot of money. It wasn't hard to raise, but it changed my mindset, because I thought, well, if I can do it once, I can do it 100 times. And just 2 weeks later, I got my second investor on, a lady called Pollyanna, £250,000. And the rest is history. So if anyone's watching this now, listening to this now, and they've got a small deposit or they haven't got any money, you can go and use OPM. But of course, you've got to put yourself out there and have those conversations. And if you're sitting on a small deposit right now, then what you could do, depending on how much that deposit is, you could just go and buy cheap property where you can use that deposit, or use that money and initially build a high cash flowing rent to rent serviced accommodation or HMO business. Minimum cash in, maximum profit out. And you can typically get a rent to rent serviced accommodation deal over the line for literally £3,000 to £5,000. And that could return you £12,000 to £15,000 a year. You do it on a 5-year deal, boom, all of a sudden you're in some good profit. So focusing on a strategy where it's minimum cash in, maximum profit out.
And so the leverage of other people's money, I would also second what you've just said, Liam, is that once you get that taste, I think it's quite daunting for people to use other people's money, especially if you've got someone who's a hard worker already looking to borrow someone else's money. Because I think, I don't know what your thoughts are on this. I certainly think that it's fluffed up a little bit too much using other people's money, because essentially we're actually using other people that have been working really hard for that money. But once you get, you said about the first 5,000, and to anyone who's watching is that, once you do that first one, you see the possibility of, well, why can't I make that 50,000? And then your deals become so much bigger and so much better. So it is possible. And what's your thoughts, just to kind of reinforce this, really, I'm a big believer in this, is that you said about sitting down, having those coffees, having those chats, building the relationship first. How long, for me, I like to, do it over breakfast, have a chat, whether it was a Zoom, then meet up. How would you suggest, if someone's like, okay, great, I'm going to get out networking, a two-part question, I suppose, to you is, Do you think the traditional property networking is the best place to go? I would say that probably not, only because you've got a lot of newbies. And then what's best? Going face to face or breakfast? How did you do it?
Well, you know, it's a good question. I could literally speak all day on this stuff, right? I'm a best-selling author. I've got my book, Bricks, Mortar and Other People's Money. People can grab it on Amazon. That's following my entire no money down blueprint. But yeah, basically, there's many different ways in which you can generate leads from investors. So I'll just shout a few out because this is what I did in the beginning. Number one is I started to put out content on social media on a regular and consistent basis to start telling the world who I was, what I do, and how I can help other people looking to get into property, get their money working for them. Number two, you can go to a whole variety of online and in-person networking events. You can go to property networking events. A lot of people there are looking for money as well. So there's a bit of competition. Having said that, the loudest always wins. So what I did at property networking events is I said to the host, I said, I want to sponsor this networking event. And I paid £600 for the year. And I sponsored that networking event. But my deal was I get a 5 to 10 minute slot every month at the front of the stage. So all of a sudden I became the loudest. So all of a sudden I was the one generating the leads. So you can go to different networking events, charity events, property events, business networking events can be very good. You know, people that have got great businesses, they've got cash reserves, they don't know what to do with it. You can go to different types of clubs. My business partner, Jay Munoz, he's met some of our investors at David Lloyd. So go and join the most expensive sports club in your area. You can go to gentleman type, you know, networking clubs. You can go to flying clubs, golf clubs. And also you've got your friends and family and your network as well. I tell you the difference that makes the difference. It's having the balls and the courage and the determination and also the fact to embrace rejection.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't do that. They get scared. Well, what if they say no? Well, if they say no, at least you know, and you can move on to the next person. It's purely a numbers game. And I go through phases, and people I work with, we go through phases. Sometimes you'll go on a really good run and you'll have like 3 or 4 coffees and you'll get all of them over the line. And then you might go on the next 10 coffees and it doesn't quite click. When you're looking to raise money with private individuals, it's not actually about the money. It's about the relationship and the connection and building that trust and rapport. And not everyone's going to say yes to you. And also, you're not going to want to work with all the investors anyway, because, you know, they might not be your cup of tea. But what you said earlier about going for coffees, that's important. So this is what I'll typically do, or when I started. Some form of networking event, make myself known. Every networking event I went to, I made a point of speaking to a minimum of 5 people, but the right type of people. Yeah. So, for example, if I spoke to a broker, I wouldn't count that person as one of my 5. Yeah. If I spoke to a solicitor, it wouldn't be one of my 5. And without fail, my KPI for those 2 or 3 hours, I've got to walk away with 5 new contacts. From those 5 new contacts, before I left the networking event, I would have a coffee booked in the diary. Starbucks, Costa Coffees, whatever, for the next 3, 4, 5 days. And then I go for the coffee, brainstorm it out, see where the connection is, explain what we do, very relaxed, no pressure. And this is the most important thing. At the end of that meeting, make sure you book in the next bloody meeting.
Yeah. Don't call it
and then,
that.
Yeah, and then you just go from there. Sometimes I'll have a coffee with someone for 60 minutes and they're in for £50,000. Sometimes it might take me 3 months before they're ready to invest with me. And I might have to go shoot some golf balls, race some fast cars, go for a couple of nice Italians, have them around my house to meet my wife and my kids. Everyone's a bit different.
Absolutely. Well, for anyone watching, what Liam's just said is absolutely spot on. And I would say that, Liam, I think you hit a very good point in the sense of, and I don't know if people would have picked up on this automatically, but there is a structure behind your networking rather than going in willy-nilly and kind of, I'll just talk to, in fact, Liam, something that I do, there's certain events that I used to go to when I was building on my network was, for anyone watching, is when you go to a lot of business events, I don't know if you find this, Liam, where you are, but you actually sometimes get like a pre-list of people who are attending. And what I would do is I would then filter off, and it would normally give me a company name, and then I would check them out at company's house, what they do, who the directors are. So when you go into that networking event, you're focused and you go, right, I know I need to spend time with this person, this person, and this person, and there has to be an outcome, because there's that. I'm a big believer, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this. I'll come over to you, is that there has to be a return on your time invested. You wouldn't want to go to 4 networking events, spend 4 hours, or sometimes they're longer, and come away with nothing. So that time, return on time invested, do you always make sure that you have to come away with a...
I'm so pleased you're talking about this, because a lot of people just go to the networking with no clear intent, no clear outcome. They go for the coffee, a bit of a chit chat. Chit chats don't put cash in the bank. What is the intent? What is the result that I want to get? And I put myself under a lot of pressure. I want to make sure that every second of every day is proactive, focusing on high income generating tasks. What can I, and I say this to myself every morning, what can I do today? And it's already in my diary anyway, but what can I do today that's going to move me towards success and bring in the most amount of money in the shortest space of time?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Structure. I think a lot of people, they lose. These are common conversations. I'm sure you have these all the time, and it's really about structure. And Liam, what's your thoughts on, because obviously we're going to sort of come on to the network now anyway, circle of 5, 15, 10, whatever your network is, but being surrounded by really good people, successful people, and being close to those who are only a few steps ahead of you so that they can show you and tell you when to jump the hurdles. And this is something that I've put in my recent book, Liam, and I'd love to know your thoughts on it, is that I really believe that opportunity comes from those that you surround yourself with, and that you can become a key that can unlock many doors if you can really open up your network with really good people. Because you might be doing buy-to-lets, but if you meet someone who happens to be a very successful multimillionaire business owner, they may open another door of joint ventures for you, because they like you. So what's your thoughts on the opportunity from a good network?
Yeah, it's really important to upgrade the people that you hang around with. And for years and years and years, I was very successful, made a lot of money in my 20s, but I was doing everything on my own, and I ran out of steam. I made some bad decisions. And, having lost that business, let's call it 7 years ago now, it was one of the best things that could have happened to me. I needed the universe to give me that kick for me to get out of my own way and literally go back to like being a baby, show me how to do this. So I made a decision, circa 7 years ago, that I was just going to upgrade my circle of influence. I was going to reinvest in myself. I was going to find great mentors. I was going to get on advanced training. And I was just going to stop listening to myself for a while and actually listen to other people. And now, Aaron, I invest tens of thousands of pounds a year in continued training, development, mentors, mastermind groups. Obviously, that is what my company does as well. We have different verticals and different mastermind groups, and we've served thousands and thousands of people to great success. But even now, people say, why do you keep investing in mentors? Why do you keep going to these networking? Why? Because I want to be around successful people, because my brain, and I'm sure this happens to a lot of people, left to your own device, it's almost like a swimming pool that doesn't have its chlorine tablets. It goes that greeny, disgusting color. Well, that's what happens to my brain. So it's important for me to upgrade my network. I've actually got a call with a private funder. We're hopefully going to get it in for tomorrow at 4 o'clock from one of my business partners who I've been working with now for pretty much 5 years. And it's a private funder that was introduced via one of our other private funders who's been making lots of money with us. And I just found out yesterday that they've got £400 million. They just sold a business for £400 million. And that should be happening tomorrow. But that wouldn't have happened if I didn't upgrade my network 5, 6 years ago.
Oh, I have no idea what happened there, Liam. You hear me all right?
I'm here, mate. I can hear you.
Let me just check. We should. All I'm going to check. I've no idea what happened there. Let me just check that we still captured, because that would be an absolute. Right. Let's quickly. Let me just check the old. Just give me 2 secs, mate.
No worries.
Okay, yeah, it's captured that first part. I've no idea what happened there. Right, we're recording anyway. So sorry, I think it cut off about 25 seconds ago, Liam. So just on the what you were saying.
Yeah, so it looks like tomorrow I've got a Zoom with a private funder that just sold his business for £400 million. And that was a referral from one of our other private funders who we've been making lots of money for over the last few years. And that would never have happened if I hadn't upgraded my network, 6 or 7 years ago. So my recommendation to people tuning in, and it may sound a bit harsh, but if you want to be successful, you've got to make some harsh decisions. Get rid of all of the negativity in your life right now. Stop listening to people that are giving you their best advice, but they've got no money in the bank.
Oh, yeah.
And it's and you know what, Aaron, sometimes it's the worst are like your best mates, your aunties, your uncles, your mums, your dads, your partners. Now, I'm not saying go get a divorce this afternoon, right? Or I'm not saying don't go and hang out with your best mate anymore, but choose very wisely who you are taking advice from.
Yeah.
And I would recommend upgrade your circle ASAP. If you hang out with 5 rich people, you're probably going to be the 6th. If you hang out with 5 positive people, you're going to be the 6th. And the same is on the negative side of that as well.
I love that. That's really good. Yeah, you will become an addition to that circle that you are around. And I can't mirror enough what you just said, is that evaluate, review who you're spending time with. And if there's that, maybe the word is a little bit harsh, but that tiny bit of poison that will just perhaps hold you back, because what you just said there is if you're hanging around with 5 really successful people, they will just pull you up. You will just end up leveling up. And that's such a big part of it. So really evaluating your network. So that's a really big point. In regards to using that network and tapping that into property, would you say that for someone who is looking to get onto the buy-to-let, I want to go back just to a bit of money management now. Would you say going into the new year, if someone's looking to go into buy-to-let, would you say double down in regards to trying to increase on an income and try and save as much as possible to keep the leverage down to buy their first buy-to-let? Or would you say, whatever you've got in the bank right now, there is an opportunity to use someone else's money? What's kind of your views on 2 of those? Double down on some income, reduce your outgoings, or just leverage straight away and get on the market?
I always would go and leverage straight away. Yeah, that's what I would do. So if you haven't got the money in the bank to get started, get training, get mentors, understand your market, set yourself up correctly, be professional, build your confidence, focus on the two biggest key result areas in property. Number one, finding deals. Number two, finding the money. And many of my graduates all have started no experience, from the bottom, nervous, scared, a lot of people in bad debt, not enjoying what they do. And they've now been able to create multi-million-pound property portfolios using none of their own money. And then what you can do is, as you make money from these deals with private funders, you can then take that money and then start building your own property portfolio and owning your own assets. So if I do a development deal where I've used none of my own money, and let's say that makes 200 grand, once you pay all your taxes and bits and pieces, I'll use that money to then go buy single lets or other investments that I decide to do. Yeah,
awesome. And touching on marketing, we briefly spoke about it earlier. I just want to sort of jump back onto that because I think the two go hand in hand. Isn't marketing such a big part of, well, let's put it this way. If no one knows who you are, how are you going to do any deals? Especially, do you think from lockdown, prior to lockdown, it used to be very much the ball was in the court of the estate agents. They kind of held the power in the sense of a landlord would be skeptical of direct to vendor. But of course, when lockdown happened, estate agents kind of had to go on the back burners. They weren't so active. So landlords had to be open more to these direct to vendor contacts. And now, it's not seen so much as a bit of a Del Boy thing. It's more of a, okay, actually I can deal directly with the buyer, almost like they do in America. There's obviously opportunity where increase your marketing and you can actually really target landlords directly now. We don't need to deal with these arrogant estate agents anymore. We can market and go straight to the seller, no?
Yeah, it's a really good point and good that we're talking about it. There's different ways to generate leads for properties. Typically, what me and Jay have found have worked really well for us, and we typically buy stuff, right? And we do developments now, but we've always maintained really good relationships with agents. So we haven't done a lot of direct to vendor marketing ourselves. However, many of my graduates and the other mentors that I have within my programs, that's what they focus on, and they get all their deals direct to vendor. So what will typically happen for someone going into property, you might explore 4 or 5 different ways of generating leads, and then you'll drill down on, say, 1 or 2 of them. You'll just get really good at direct to vendor, or really good with the agents, or really good at auctions, or really good with Facebook ads, or sending out leaflets and letters and bandit boards. So I'd always explore multiple ways of generating those leads. But yeah, direct to vendor is a great way to go. But whatever you do in property, you're always marketing anyway. Now, this is a big confusion for a lot of people. Marketing, in my eyes, is sales.
Yeah.
And sales is sales, right? And in this day and age, any business, even if you've got people listening here now that are plumbers or accountants or solicitors, or you own a shop, it doesn't matter. Anybody that is in business, the 2 things that you need to get good at, number 1 is marketing, and number 2 is sales. Because if you don't know how to market and you don't know how to sell, you could be sitting in front of the best landlord that is going to give you 50 direct to vendor deals. You could be sitting in front of someone that's going to give you £1 million. But if you don't know how to get that person over the line, you're never going to get them over the line. And it's not something you're born with. It is a skill that you can master, and you can learn, and you can test, tweak, repeat, and you can get better at. Anyone can do this.
And on that, sales, absolutely. I think you need to be a big salesperson in order to close these deals. Like you say, you could bring a perfect deal, but if you can't close it, So for anyone watching, on the back of that, that comes back down to education. So, audiobooks, YouTube, mentors, success leaves clues, follow blueprints, copy those bit of Wolf of Wall Street. So Audible, I think, is a big one. And don't you think actually when we're very focused on property, but actually to go and learn, this is kind of my cycle when I listen to Audible. It goes from anything from property to their business, to their mindset, to possibly a biography of someone. And I kind of do this rotation so that my learning's not totally, one avenue. I'm kind of keeping it nice and broad. So for people to learn to become a great, marketing expert and a salesman or saleswoman, what's kind of your suggestion of education for that? How do you do it?
Yeah, great, cool. So I love sales. I love marketing. It's something which I've focused on. I was selling sweets in the playground at the age of 8, and I was going into school with the bag, with jeans and perfumes in year 11. So I've always loved that stuff. A lot of people, I was told at school, whatever you do, don't become a salesman. Worst piece of advice you can give anyone. And here in the UK, there's a bit of stigma around selling. Now, in all industries, you get good guys and bad guys. But if you've got a product that you love and a product that is going to give someone enhancement, it's going to create a better life for them, then it's your obligation to be talking about that and selling your product. Selling is serving, selling is caring. But yeah, there's lots of things you can do. It takes time. So role playing is really important. So something we do at Assets for Life at 8:40 every morning in the relevant departments on Zoom is role play without fail. Product knowledge, overcoming objections, handling objections, scripts, closing techniques. Because when we close and we sell, we're not manipulating people. It's not high pressured sales. It's not bullying someone. We just help them make the decision to what is the next logical right step. And that's what we try and do. But you've got audiobooks, Grant Cardone does lots of stuff on selling. You've got my business partner, Nick Starb, Selling is Serving. He's just released his book. There are boot camps that you can go on. So I run a 3-day sales boot camp where we literally help people transform. But there's loads of resource out there. There's YouTube videos, audiobooks, courses. But I would recommend getting into a deep dive 3-day, 5-day sales boot camp with sales experts, and then being in some type of selling mastermind for say 12 months, so you can really embrace the art of selling, because it's not going to happen just overnight.
Yeah, and not only that, if it doesn't come natural to someone, there's confidence building, learning what to say. It's everything, isn't it? There's a whole structure behind selling. Actually, I think people might think, oh, I can do that, but actually, when it comes to pulling that trigger, you're like, oh, it can be quite nerve-wracking for a lot of people. So if you haven't got the gift of the gab, you need to learn that. Just as we sort of come to finalize, touching on the sort of the last question there is, what would be your biggest takeaways from and I'm not just on about property here, I'm on about your whole entrepreneurship here. So your involvement in property, business, sales, mindset, family life balance, everything. What would be your 3 sort of takeaways from what you have learned to the journey you're on now that you could share with someone where they could perhaps go, oh, okay, I relate to that? What would be sort of your biggest takeaways from everything?
Wow. That's that is a great question. Okay, so a few things that initially come to mind. There's lots, but these are just coming to my mind right now. Number 1 is embrace failure. And actually, failure is just growth. So if you're having a bad day right now, tuning into this, and something is not going your way, embrace it. Try and remove the emotion from it and look at the positive and the learning point, because there'll be something positive that will come out of that. So that's number 1. Number 2, make sure you over deliver to your audience, community, clients, team members. And remember lifetime client value. Not everyone's going to buy from you straight away. Not everyone's going to like your stuff straight away. But if you continue to be congruent in your message, if you continue to stay true to your values, and you are delivering a great message and building that community and going above and beyond, people will come and buy from you. They will want to join your tribe. And more now than ever, right, Aaron? More now than ever, like the information world, training world, you know, we're going to see one of the biggest spikes in that, I believe, over the next 5 to 10 years, because people are sick and tired of what we've been shown since we was at school, and they're realizing it doesn't work. And that's great. There's like an uprising. Yeah, there's an uprising, and I'm really excited about that. So that was point number 2, was go above and beyond for your customers, your clients, your community. And number 3, the third biggest thing that I've learned is enjoy what you do. You know, really enjoy what you do, because life is for living, and I've got a lot of energy. Now, will you have to do some things occasionally that you don't enjoy? Yeah, of course. But what are your skills? What are your talents? What are your passions? Turn that passion into profit. So every day I wake up, you know, and this is what I do, right? If there's something in my business I'm not very good at, or I really don't enjoy it, I'll just go and hire someone or find someone far smarter than me. So never be afraid to leverage. But yeah, enjoy your life, smile, live with passion, and just remember that you can do it no matter what.
That was incredible. Well, 3 amazing points. And also, all I would say on the back of there, as I was told by a very successful businessman once, also enjoy the journey. Just enjoy the whole process, because it's not going to be perfect. It's not always going to go the way that you want it, and it will mold you at the end. And the person that you become at the end will be from what you've gone through. So those were some amazing points. And Liam, I'd just like to say thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge. And for anyone watching, I'm going to include all of your details below in the description, but where can they reach out to you immediately on socials?
Yeah, great. So you can go to Instagram. My handle is Liam J. Ryan Wealth. You can also hit up the Assets for Life YouTube channel. So Assets for Life, and then just search Liam J. Ryan on Facebook and you'll find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, Liam, it's been an absolute pleasure. It'd be great to meet one day face to face in London. We'll do a whole big podcast thing. And until next time, I hope everyone enjoyed it, and we'll speak to all of you very soon.
Lovely. Thanks for having me. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, Liam.